Wow. That's crazy. So it looks like a good run is over. Joe Budden has officially fired his partners, Rory and Mal. Been a lot of tension lately. Been a lot of tension. Of course, they had their little spat. Rory started snapping on Joe Budden. And I really didn't see much of that. I don't watch a ton of the podcasts. I've followed them throughout the years. I followed Joe Budden's podcast since, like I said, I don't sit there and listen to the whole thing, but I listen to little snippets. But I've been following his come up since, the 2000s. Like, talking about, 2009 or so, from what I remember. Before YouTube even really got popping. Joe Budden had it going. And it was just him. And he added these guys, and they had the whole, I'll name this podcast later. They got a good chemistry going. And they had a nice little chemistry. But, stuff hits bumpy roads at times. And, Joe's that type of person. You just never know what you're going to get. He's one of those, he can be difficult to work with. A lot of folks who are successful in what they do, they have little ticks. They have little things to them that just, just different than a lot of most human beings. They just operate differently. Not to say that it's a negative or a positive. They just operate differently. And Joe's a different type of dude. He's a very calculated individual in how he moves. You had that first, the first little mix-up where, I heard Rory was, asking if he wanted to go outside and fight during the podcast and shit like that. And, we're to the point where Joe had to tell him, take some time off. And Mal didn't like that. Mal's asking, who are you to make that type of decision? And so, and there was probably some things Joe could worded wrong, the way he addressed Mal, basically saying it has none of your business. But, when you mix friends and business, when you mix friendship and business, man, it always gets tricky. It's always bound to turn bad. That's why both should be separated. Friendship and business should always be separated. It should always be acknowledged, but you got to handle your business. That's from the owner standpoint and people who are the employees, so to say. That's what Rory and Mal were. They were the employees. It's the Joe Budden podcast with Rory and Mal. He was getting this stick going before either one of them. Now apparently he's been friends with Mal for years. And you just recently met Rory. Well, not recently, but he had met Rory back in 2014. Long after he had got everything going. Let the window down. There's a damn bug flying in here. But long after he had got everything going. So it was all built off of him. And so he deserves to have the majority, ownership or the say-so of how everything's going to move. He's the leader. That's how it goes. But too often than not, especially, when we do things, when we doing business in an independent sense, You got too many people, man, and I've seen this, that they want to sit up there and now they want to be in the driver's seat. You know, somebody put them on. I see this with so many people, man. You know, they try to put their friends on, try to give them an opportunity, give them a job. Most places, you know, give them wages that are much better than, you know, these other 9-to-5s that they'll give, and the person will go out and shit on them because now they think, you know, oh, we boys and we friends, and they don't respect them the same way. They don't respect them in the same sense that they, you know, that they do that white man that they see in the suit. And they go clock in every day. They'll never go up to him and ask them and say, hey, I think I should get half of the company, stuff like that. But their friends, yeah, they'll start that mess. And they didn't put in the work to build it. There's a lot of groundwork that has to be laid, and it takes effort. It takes a lot of effort. Blood, sweat, and tears, consistency, trial and error. These dudes thought their position was bigger than what it was. And yeah, they should have some, you know, some say so, but the final say is always going to go to the big dog. It should always be that understanding, and he made it clear. But you could tell when they came back from the hiatus, from the tension, from the first time they had tension, you could tell just things weren't right, because then they had a whole show, and you could still, you know, you could tell they say they had a 7-hour conversation, but here they are still in disagreement on this show. And so nothing had been resolved. Nothing had been resolved. And so now you get this, and you get this audio that comes out, you know, and it's now from the show that he did today, and it's now been deleted. And, you know, Joe's putting everything on the table. Now you can find the different clips on YouTube. You know, everybody's posting different clips from the show, and Joe's putting everything out on the table. Now, from what it looked like it started and people were saying this before, but it's basically confirmed it now. Joe's confirmed it, that it started with DJ Academics. And it's consistent disses toward Rory and Mal. I don't know how that began, or I don't know how that culminated, but DJ Academics doesn't like those two. Now, if y'all not familiar with DJ Academics, he has his own channel. He was formerly a co-host to Joe Budden on the Everyday Struggle show. That was formerly on Complex until that got, you know, broken up, and, you know, the business wasn't right with Joe Budden, so, you know, that went down the drain. And the company, you know, I thought made a good move by bringing Star on Complex. They brought Star on to the show, some Star and Buck Wild, but then they wanted to basically put a muzzle on him and edit him and, you know, censor him. And you're not going to get the best out of Star with that. So he had to keep it pushing on them guys. And, you know, Academics, and then finally fell apart, and Academics had to get up out of there. And he's been on a run lately. He's been on a strong run lately. He's back with a vengeance. But yeah, they've had a lot of beef going on. So when it came out that Joe was, you know, open and possibly going to be working with Academics again in the future, that ruffled some feathers. Rory and Mal weren't happy with that. Joe knows they have an issue, but he doesn't know that it was that serious. And, you know, it ain't nothing that's going to turn into beef or anything like that. I mean, it's DJ Academics. You know, it's words. You shit gets talked. But, his guys didn't like that. But Joe ain't have a problem with it. It's something that should have been all the way nipped in the bud. Joe should have asserted his position from the beginning instead of letting it, because from what it sounds like, it's something that's been going on for a while. Something about, Rory and having some guys pull up and send academics a message or something. All this should have been nipped in the bud from the beginning. Joe should have let them know where he stands and how things are going to play out. And if anybody has any objections, you got to keep it pushing. Because Joe's going about this strictly business. Business, nothing personal. The other two are making the friendship their priority. They're looking at it from a friendship. Why are you dealing with this guy? We got beef with him. What about us? Joe's looking at the possibilities and the opportunity for more money to flow in, which, could or could not put more money in those two's pockets. I want to guess and say, yeah, it would. Now, me personally, if it was my partners and you got somebody dissing, I'd have to holler at the dude and make things clear. That's off limits. You can't say nothing about them. If we go from there, then, we got to cut ties. That's just me personally, but everybody moves differently. I'm not going to say what Joe did was wrong, because people are going to do what's best for them. People are going to do what's best for them, what works for them. If you're an employee and you're under this guy, this is the guy that signs your checks and brings you to the dance, it's going to go how he calls it. It's like, other people move different ways. 50 Cent was the opposite. 50 Cent wasn't worried about the money. Remember with G-Unit? And they were beefing with all those guys. Fat Joe Fat Joe, Jadakiss, Nas. These are guys who are hot. Some of the, especially when you're talking about the Locks, Jadakiss and all of them. And, people want to work with those guys. Now, it was already solidified that it was beef with Ja Rule, and those guys were cool with that. But when it jumped to, the homies, those guys they had already built relationships with. And you're talking about, especially Jadakiss and the Locks, Styles P and all of them. People love Nas. And so when you putting that divide in between, those guys had a problem with it. He's like, this not my beef, and that's how the split with Game came about. But it's how the boss wants to move. He's the boss man. He laid the foundation. He set the groundwork. He put y'all on. And that's how it's got to be. Everybody's got to play their position. And if not, nobody's holding a gun to your head. You can keep it pushing. But you're going to have to learn how to swim on your own. That's what Rory and Mal are going to have to do. And now me personally, I really don't think, I honestly thought the Ice and Ish guy, at least which one's the light-skinned guy? I don't know, whoever the light-skinned guy, that guy was entertaining. The ones who would fill in the stand-ins for Rory and Mal, that guy was entertaining. He brought a lot of charisma, a lot of value to the topics. He had a lot to say. Rory and Mal are going to have to, step their game up. And now, from what I see, there's a contract that's, what's being said by Joe, there's contract where they can't pod, for a year after leaving, which most companies do. Joe handled it from a business standpoint. Like I said, me personally, I wouldn't do that. Like, hey, go spread your wings, fly immediately. Do what you got to do. But that's how Joe wants to rock. You know, and that was one of those non-competition. You know, you see corporate companies do this. And non-competition contract. I'm probably saying it wrong, but y'all know what I mean. Got to do what's best for him. That's the big dog, man. That's the big dog. He's running the show. So, the people understand that. My main thing out of this is play your position. Now, if you can make something else happen to where you can stand on your own too, then make it happen. But when you come under somebody else's umbrella, play your position. That's a huge problem that we have going on in the community. And that's why we aren't able to do a lot of building, and a lot of guys say, I'm going to keep it pushing until I find something else. But a lot of times they just, I'm going to do me. Everybody's got a position to play. Stop trying to, everybody's got this, I want to be the boss and want to be the head and, put up a persona on social media and everything, and it's all fake and it ruins everything. Play your position. You're not gonna make, and you're not supposed to make nowhere near as what the boss makes. Focus on your own life, your own growth. You focus on everybody else, you lose direction. You lose sight of the end game, of the goal. So that's all I gotta say. Please comment, like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I will holler at y'all later. Peace.